Hey guys, Nick here with another 5 minutes of couples therapy. Today I wanted to talk about attachment styles and how those impact our intimate relationships. So I'm just going to kind of give a brief overview of the 4 attachment styles that people typically have, and then in the coming weeks I'll talk about each one in more detail. So attachment theory is based on research done by a guy named John Bowlby. He was a psychiatrist and a psychoanalyst, and he did this research. Started in the 1950s and continued well through the 1980s. It's kind of informed a lot of the therapeutic methods that we use today. So he said that we are primarily bonding creatures, and that one of our core needs that we have as humans is social bonding and establishing secure bonds in our relationships. So there's 4 main attachment styles. There's anxious, avoidant, disorganized, and secure. And so these attachment styles are developed early on in childhood, and they're based on how your parents met or didn't meet your needs. So the way that they comfort you, communicate with you, provide for your needs, all those things influence your attachment style. So when our parents are really attuned to our needs, both emotional and physical, we develop a secure attachment. And when those needs aren't met, we develop one of the other 3 attachment styles, which are all considered different types of insecure attachment. So the anxious attachment type is typically developed if your parents were really inconsistent with meeting your needs, or if they were rejecting when you had a need, or if they were punitive. So like authoritarian parenting style. When I say authoritarian, I don't mean like Kim Jong-il. I mean like your parents said, you're going to do this, and the reason is because I said so. That's kind of what authoritarian means when we're talking about parenting styles. People with an anxious attachment type typically have a negative self-view and a positive view of others. So when they're in intimate relationships, they worry a lot about being lonely, have a lot of anxiety about their partner leaving them, and they kind of ruminate on these thoughts often. So in order to not have this anxiety, they need a lot of attention, they need to feel cared for, they need a lot of validation from their partner. And when they don't get that, they can become clingy, demanding, and need constant reassurance that the relationship is secure. And they can even become hyper-vigilant about that. So the avoidance style, it's also referred to as the dismissive style, that happens when your caregiver in childhood didn't respond well to your emotional or other needs. So they might have just been ignored, or communicated that the needs weren't important. So these people have a really positive view of themselves and a negative view of others. So they're very independent, especially on an emotional level. They can seem closed off because they prefer to resolve all of their emotional things internally. They avoid depending on other people or having others depend on them. They avoid intimacy and emotional connections in relationships, and they really hide their emotions. So it's really hard to figure out like how somebody with an avoidant attachment style is feeling. Then we have the disorganized attachment type. Usually disorganized is the result of some significant childhood trauma, or when a child experienced intense episodes of fear, and it's kind of a combination of the anxious and the avoidant attachment style. So their behavior in relationships can be extremely unpredictable and confusing. Their partners are often the source of both their anxiety and their joy and their desire. So they really want intimacy, and they're terrified of it at the same time. So emotional connection can be a great source of happiness and fulfillment and fear. They have a real hard time trusting people and regulating their own emotions, and they avoid emotional attachment just due to fear of getting hurt. So finally, the secure attachment style, right? This is what we're shooting for. That's developed in the first 18 months of life. So that you're a baby when you develop your secure attachment style, and it happens when your primary caregiver is emotionally and physically available to meet your needs. So the other three styles, like I said, are insecure attachment styles. Secure is what happens when your needs were met as a child. When attachment is secure, we're comfortable being emotionally vulnerable. We can depend on others and they can depend on us. Our relationships are based on honesty, tolerance, and emotional connectedness. We do really great in relationships. We're also not afraid of being on our own. That's not a fear that we have. We have a positive view of ourselves and of other people. If you notice the other attachment types, it's like either or. It's like I'm either have a positive view of myself or I have a positive view of others. People with a secure attachment don't really seek approval and validation from other people's as much. Of course, that's going to feel good. It's just not like a primary driving factor for behaviors. Secure attachment also allows people to really regulate their emotions well, and they can actually help their partner and others do the same things. Having secure social bonds is one of the greatest determinants of mental health and well-being. So establishing this secure attachment is of utmost importance. And there's no like quick and easy fix because these styles are based on things that happen to us in childhood. So often there's a lot of deep healing of wounds that have been with you for your entire life that need to be addressed to to kind of adapt and change so that you're able to have secure attachments if you don't have them already. So that's what I got for you guys on attachment theory, and I'll talk to you next week, and we'll start with anxious attachment. Have a good week.